welcome back, guys. Again, we've done a few of these now. This is the third, so this is the 6th podcast we've done together in total. Amazing as well. Look, we're all in the same clothes as the last few.
And in true podcast form, I'm wearing nothing below the waist.
Well, I mean, guys, it's the same.
Stockings and suspenders I'm wearing actually.
Well, I've got a little dog next to me actually, which is falling asleep. We just got a puppy here at the H house.
Oh. And, you know what I'd do with that puppy?
Asleep.
I'd sew it in a girl's stomach.
Well, yeah. What was the dog which you put in the movie? What
was it?
Yeah. What breed?
It was a teacup terrier or something.
Well, okay. So I've got a border terrier. So that's probably why there's some.
I mean, the funny thing was, I said we need a dog, and then the first day they bought like this, £50 dog, and I was like, seriously, like that's supposed to get sewn into a girl, without knowing. And we couldn't find the dog, and then it turned out, as so many things on Hellraiser Judgment, that somebody on the cast was like, "Do you want to use my dog?" And it was like a dog that you could literally hold in your hand.
Yeah,
it was tiny. It was one of these teacup terriers. It was minuscule, and I know people were like, "Oh, it would have." I love the scientists out there who are like, "How's the dog alive now?" It's like it's anesthetized and it wakes up. Well, just happened to wake up at the right time. It's like, shut up.
Convenience is a move. Anyway, I need to do the introduction to the podcast, goddammit. We're going to be talking about...
Introduce away.
We're going to be talking about Hellraiser. Guys, if you're not aware and you're new to the channel, because again, this is why it's important to do intros at the start. This is Gary J. Tunnicliffe, the writer, director, and also one of the actors for Hellraiser Judgment. A very, very accomplished makeup artist. Has worked on a lot of... Well, you pull funny faces, but it is the truth. Has worked on a lot of the Hellraiser movies himself. And is friends with, hopefully friends, we can discuss that probably now, with Doug Bradley.
Yes, we are.
Everything's all kosher there now, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously everything, just those of you who don't know, Doug didn't, for whatever reasons, didn't read an NDA and wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, we don't need to go into the insides of that, because I don't want to cause any issues.
Needless to say, myself and Doug, talked after everything was said, and basically what we came to the agreement was there are far better things in our past, a much longer and greater relationship in our past to celebrate than the minor bump that all relationships have.
Yep.
And that we like to celebrate, and we put it down to my ego and Doug's steadfastness and everything else. But yes. There are much better things to celebrate, and I wish him all the best and everything else. So,
well, hopefully you can.
He is Pinhead. He is the And I said this to Paul Taylor. I was like, look, I love you, Paul, but if Doug had said yes, I'd be, doing it. He owns that character, and I agree with everyone who says, Doug Bradley's Pinhead. It's like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, yeah. Well, that's good. It is good to hear. Yeah, it genuinely is good to hear. So, let's talk about. I've been doing videos on the I was about to say leaked script. That script is very hard to get a hold of.
I was thrilled.
Really
and I was surprised when you started mentioning it. And this is one of the reasons I reached out to you to talk, was because I thought it was exciting that you'd managed to get a copy of it at the very, very least. But then what was important to me. And this isn't in any way to cause kind of like an argument or to whine or anything else, but I wanted people to hear the things that were in the script.
Yeah.
because it's so hard sometimes, because I do get the feeling that there are things that have been done in Hellraiser movies and that I did in Judgment that people are so venomous against that I go, you know what, guys? If Clive did that, you'd all be like, "Woo, Clive Barker! It's brilliant, it's genius." And because I'm doing it, it's like it's fodder for an attack. So I want to. And now that these things are being revealed that were in the script that I read, that when I read it, I was like,
"Yep, yeah,
really,
yeah." Well, this will make for an interesting conversation then.
Because for those of you who've read, like, I'm assuming that anyone who's logging onto this has heard some of the story elements. So,
hopefully, when I release this, I would have done probably about 3 or 4 videos on it. So a lot of people, if you're not up to scratch with what I've done. I'll link them down below in the description box. But it's really important to take a look at the videos because there's a lot that's different, but there's a lot that's the same. Hold that thought. I need to switch my light on in this room because otherwise people won't see me and they'll think this is something a bit dodgy going on webcam here. So let me just turn the light off. Right, there we go. So I'm back. Yeah, basically there's. I mean, where to start?
Well, even going back to like the first thing of like Pinhead being in white robes
and Le Marchand. He's Le Marchand. The puzzle
the two
box
characters
maker.
are one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
yeah.
It was. So I read that script. So first and foremost, I scoured the internet for as much information as I possibly could on it. And I didn't have the script at that point. I just compiled all of the information together that was actually out there. And there's not that much information. And I did one big video and I pieced it together and I thought to myself, well, that, I mean, it just sounds pretty much the same goddamn thing. And then there was some elements that people raved about who's released information on it and said that it was really good and they really embraced it and they went all gory and all this kind of crap. And then I got a hold of the script, and I'm not going to tell. Obviously, I don't divulge how I acquire these things. So hey, if anyone's watching and you want to send me stuff, please do. So, and then I got a hold of the script and I read it, and I was just like, this is no disrespect to Clive Barker, absolutely no disrespect, but it's just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it was the direction from the studio which has caused it to be this way, or it's just Clive Barker, because it's not enough of a difference, because it's a remake of the first one, and it is very much a remake. Like, there are literally just scene for scenes, and what is different isn't different enough, in my eyes anyway. In the way that it is different is just not very good. Like the vines, for instance. If we're talking about Pinhead, no chains come down anymore. No. Pinhead's gone botanical. So there's fucking vines that come up from the floorboards.
Yep.
I just didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. And what also didn't make any sense is Clive Barker, a person who venomously hated the fact that Pinhead was called Pinhead, because he's written into the Scarlet Gospels, who you call him Pinhead, and like, murders the guy to pieces, right? Like, rips him apart. He does not like the lead Cenobite being called Pinhead.
Right.
Generally speaking, famously known for not enjoying the term Pinhead. But he calls the guy Pinhead again, straight away, in the script. Doesn't call him lead Cenobite.
I can defend that.
Okay, go on then.
I mean, let me give you, first of all, from where I remember what happened was, I was there when, several scripts had been written.
Yeah.
And every time I'd be on a set for a Dimension film, me and the execs would talk, and I'd be like, where are we at? And they'd be like, oh, we've got so-and-so working on a new script, and they've written a script. And I'd be like, oh, wow. And like, yeah, they're going to do it. And I was like, okay. And then 6 months later, I'd go by and I'd be on another film set, and they'd be like, yeah, we didn't like that. We've gone down this road, and now we're on this. They're doing a version. Do you have any ideas? You want anything you want to pitch? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'd go home and knock out things, and they were just like, nothing was sticking.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I remember, I think it was after Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan had written a script, which had got like this big civil army sequence in it, and Dimension were like, yeah, they wanted to they want to start in the Civil War, and we don't have that kind of money, and Then I heard that Clive and Bob they'd got together. Clive Barker had met with Bob Weinstein, and some deal had been hashed out, and Clive was going to go and write a Hellraiser script, and I think and allegedly, I remember. There was a lot of money talk. It was like
reading that script, it would have needed a lot.
It was $1 million, but no, to write it.
Oh,
it was like you're going to get this much money to write a Hellraiser film. It was like a big
wow,
6-figure number. You know what I mean? To write a Hellraiser script.
Just to write the script.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like well, of course, and rightly so. I mean, Clive is the the author of Hellraiser, so it was very exciting. And it was like Clive's going to write this script, and he's unleashed. And I think it was kind of like, and I couldn't imagine for a second that. Bob Weinstein would send Clive Barker a bunch of notes and say, "You're going to write this and do this. We're not going to have this."
Then that's really surprising in terms of some of the choices. Then
I think he was told kind of like going to go for it. So I was, my understanding was it was Clive. This was Clive unfiltered and a band, and was going to write his screenplay. Regarding calling him Pinhead, I mean, if you're going to write a Hellraiser film, now whether you love Pinhead or not or hate the term or not. What else are you going to call him in the script? You've got to give him a name, you know what I mean? So if you wrote lead Cenobite, you'd have Bob Weinstein, or everyone at the execs going, "Who's this lead Cenobite guy? Is that Pinhead?" You know?
I mean, I get you. I do get you.
Although he hates it, like I've got to give him a label, and I have to label him with the name that everyone knows. Otherwise, everyone's going to be like, "Who's this lead Cenobite? Who's this Hell Priest dude?" They don't know that.
I mean, I do get you. I just think, look, if he was given, 6 figures. Or whatever to write a script, and he's been told he can just do whatever he wants, I would have just thought he would have genuinely done what he wanted. And someone that is known for, I'm not going to get too hung up on this Pinhead bollocks because there's far better things to talk about in this script than that.
But all I remember,
it's just a bit of a surprise. That's all, I guess.
No, of course, and like you say, I mean, I do understand that. But then again, as saying that stupid, awful comment, but as a writer, you go, well, I've got to call him something. And although I want to call him,
I get that. I'm
going to call him Pinhead. Otherwise, I'm going to have someone call him going, "Is that Pinhead? That dude there with the Hell Priest name? That's Pinhead, right?" And you go, yeah. So we're just going to just call it Pinhead for the ease of the script. Yeah. So I'm sure it's just purely for the ease of writing. But what I vividly remember is everyone being like, "It's going to be great." And Clive's getting a big chunk of money. He's really excited. And Bob's really excited. And all the other scripts are off the table now. And we're throwing them all away. And it's Clive Barker. And then I remember that basically that it was written, it was delivered. And there was a big, massive gulp around the world heard at the Dimension offices of like, "This is it?" And people reading. And
so, can you...
Very quickly, apparently, it was like, "Yeah, we're not doing that."
So look, I mean, Dimension is pretty much done, right? Essentially. So are you able to divulge what was said? Do you know what was said?
About the script?
Yeah.
Yeah, fundamentally, I heard Bob didn't like it.
Right.
Didn't like it. And it wasn't a situation of like, "Well, I like this and I like that. Let's go down this road." I think it was literally like, it was almost like, "Hey, do you want to date my friend Carol? She's really cute and you'll really like her. She's amazing. You're going to love her." And then you go out to dinner and it's like, "I hate Carol. Like, she's a bitch. She's just a bitch." So it's like, "Well, do you want to go on a second date?" I'll call her. And then never, ever call her again.
Right, okay.
And I think that's what happened. I think it was like, this is so far off what we were expecting, so far away, so far what we don't want to do, absolutely, definitely not, and expensive, and not what we're going to do, and we think the fans will hate it. Let's just never talk about it ever again. Well, that was the impression I got. It was I remember having a conversation with a very well-known exec at Dimension. I was like, "So is it good? Is it great?" And he was like, and I was like, "Well, what?" He's like, "These are not the droids you're looking for. Forget that you ever remember this being spoken of. There is no Clive Barker script."
So it's
and then I got sent it and I got to read it, and I was like.
So, well, let's get into it then, right? What do you think is good and bad about the script? You tell me. What do you think is good?
It's a good title.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll give you that. Just on principle.
It's epic.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of its scope is big.
Yeah. I just thought. I mean, it was to me. It was There was too much stuff in there that I just thought, wow, this is gonna. I think you're better off not calling it Hellraiser, and just being something else, because it's so far different and so radical, and it doesn't feel like, I knew it wouldn't get made. When I read it, I was like, this isn't a Dimension movie. This is if the rights went to some European French, studio who said we're going to make a completely avant-garde, like if you told me Dario Argento was going to direct that version of Hellraiser, I'd have been like, yeah, I get it. You know, now I get it. Or Takeshi so and so is going to direct. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be so different, because it needs to be. I just thought fans would just tear it apart.
So all right. So let's talk about it in detail then. So because I asked what you liked about it and you barely said anything.
Well,
so...
I can't. Honestly, it's been so long since I actually read the thing.
Yeah, no, I know.
Even hearing your notes, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember it. Because you have to remember, I've read probably
a lot.
9 or 10 Hellraiser scripts over the last 10 years, varying different ways. Again, everything from the the French guy script, which
have you?
To
I'm trying to get a hold of that one. Nudge,
to
nudge,
Patrick
wink,
Lussier and Todd Farmer's version, which I really liked, and had this great opening in Tokyo. So they're all a bit kind of like. So when you started talking about elements, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, yeah, that was really weird. And like I say, I remember the sequence with the pop-up grid piece.
Yeah. So okay, all right. So for context. So, guys that haven't watched any of the videos, Pinhead in this script is Philip Le Marchand turned Hell Priest, right? He wears white robes, and there's a scene where he creates Cenobites, that's a whole other discussion because how he creates them is a bit bizarre and is way overpowered. It's to me anyway, it's way overpowered. But anyway. And everyone knows Pinhead as the iconic, the cuts through the head and all this kind of crap, the pins, etc.
If you let me interject very quickly.
Okay.
You saw my Project Angel video, right, where I did like a different version of Pinhead?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you ever notice he's wearing white robes?
No, I don't. No.
He's wearing white robes. He's wearing white monk's robes. He's wearing a white robe.
So I've got no issue with the white robes, but then...
No, but that was done because I'd read Clive's script. And I did this white robe.
Smart.
And then if you go through the comments, people go, "Why isn't he wearing black leather? It's so fucking dumb, dude. He should be wearing black leather. Like they're sadomasochists from hell." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh look, now if this had been Clive Barker directing it, would you all be sucking at the teeth of Mr. Barker going, it's genius, it's brilliant, he's wearing white robes, he's a priest." Because I'm showing you what Clive's idea is, I'm handing it to you on a plate, one of Clive's concepts, Pinhead in white robes, and you're all killing it. I don't agree with it. I think he should be in black leather, absolutely. And just to let you all know, they're not black.
It's like a bluey colour, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's brown leather. In the first film, it's brown, it's dark brown leather. Jane Wild Goose made them out of dark brown leather. It's lit and they look like black and they look oily and wet. It's like the stupid freaking thing that I've had to paint Doug's fingers red, the tips of his fingers red for the last 15 years. Because in the first scene of Pinhead, he's putting the box back together, he's got blood on his fingers, and for some reason it became like law that he's got blood on his fingers, you know what I mean? So I have to put blood all the time on his freaking fingers.
So anyway, so we digress.
So I did white robes and tried that out and got critically murdered for it.
Yeah. So in this version, and I guess you're kind of homage to it in a certain way. Pinhead is wearing white robes, and he's got the pattern on his skull is the same. It's the same Pinhead. He's just wearing white robes. But then the difference is, one of his Cenobites that he's created walks along up to him and goes boop in the middle of his head, and it's quite literally like that. The guy just presses this this point of Pinhead's head, and one of the squares, which obviously the skull pattern is squared up with the pins at the intersections, flips up like a little lid, and then there's a vial inside. It's exactly like that. Exactly like that. It's the weirdest thing, and there's like a vial inside. It doesn't explain what it is. And one of the Cenobites draws out this fluid, which we can presume is like
the essence of evil.
Yeah, well, I guess, but it still doesn't even really explain it, because it doesn't. We're led to believe in the script that it's going to be this horrific, It's going to be horrific in some manner, but nothing else happens with it. So it goes nowhere. We don't see it. It doesn't come back ever. And it's just the weirdest thing. I don't understand where the... I think the white robes is an interesting concept, yet it goes against the entire... the inbuilt lore of Hellraiser. So yes, you're having a remake, but you're going quite a step outside of the current lore, because the first one's working title or original title was sadomasochistics, from the grave, or from hell, or something. I think it was from the grave. So without the kind of latex and the leather and all of that kind of crap, you are going very, 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 very far away. The white robes is still interesting.
Clive's exact words to Jane Wargus, the designer, when he asked her to design the costumes, were, they're sadomasochistic butchers.
Yeah.
Sadomasochistic butchers from hell.
Yeah, exactly. So it's such a
gave them
weird...
butchery skirts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's such a weird decision. And so that, I guess that's kind of like a little bit of insight into the movie. What did you think of the... Because I've just released that video today. I don't know if you caught it, but it was the video on Frank Cotton. And
oh no, I haven't now.
He's a step up in terms of his evil, sinister nature, but in my eyes, he's a step up way too far.
Right.
In the script, like there's elements which they lay down in the first film, but it's quite subtle. It's an undertone.
I remember him being kind of grotesquely, ridiculously over the top, rather than being kind of like a creepy uncle,
So in the original movie, there's incestuous undertones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite cleverly done. A lot of people deny that it's there. I've always
come to daddy, really?
Well, exactly. I don't understand, but people do. They do deny it, but it's there. And then in this remake script, they just basically say, yeah, no, he's going to molest you. He's going to... The words are, it'll only hurt for a second, but I promise to fuck your corpse, or something like that. And it's like, what? So we've gone from, come to daddy, subtle, undertones of incest, incestuous thoughts and things like this, to I'm gonna use you to replenish myself, and then I'm gonna perform necrophilia on your dead body.
Right.
How did we go there? How did we get to that? In what is that? It's just it's a step way too far in my eyes. And I did the video, and I've read some of the comments. I've been out and about today, so I haven't managed to read a lot of them. But some of the comments are like, oh, well, I love it. It's just pure evil. It is, but there's something in it. There's something to be said for having, be evil, but be subtle with it as well. Have the kind of the undertones flowing. I don't know. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it was too big. It was way too big. I mean, you go back to to almost go to Haunting of Hill House. There's one of the episodes where the little girl, Mr. Smiley.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that to me was the brilliant way of handling that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was having her lie on the couch and kind of like get a flash, and you knew that guy was clearly molesting that child and doing what he was doing. Yeah. That to me is far more powerful than the bold lines in that.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of this felt again for someone like Clive, who's so gentle, and I mean, again, what's brilliant with Clive's writing is the fact that he's able to do these terrible things and be so vivid with it, and then also fall back. And that's to me is what was interesting about some of the nuanced nature of the original Hellraiser and the Hellbound Heart, is because it's unspoken. Some of it is, and maybe it's on the page, but you would take it all out in the edit. But again, it all felt a bit. It felt like it wasn't Clive writing it. It felt like it was.
Yeah. So this is probably important to mention. I'm not trashing Clive at all. Like I think he's a great writer. I'm more baffled with how he came to write this. That's more my this is more the kind of topic, I guess. The kind of topic at hand is like how it came to be. I mean, where that came from is just it is genuinely beyond me. I have no idea.
My involvement with Exorcist at the beginning, I was brought in by Morgan Creek to go and watch the Schrader version.
Yeah.
When they were in post-production, and they sat me in a room and said, we'd like you to watch something and get your opinion. And I was like, what is it? And they were like, it's Exorcist. And I was like, the Paul Schrader movie? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. And they put it on, and I kind of sat there and watched it for 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And then I was like, Paul Schrader directed this? And yeah. And I was like, and wrote it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah. And I'm like, this isn't very good. And they were like, yeah, that's why you're here. And I was like, and they were like, and I felt that when I read this, I was like, I was excited to read a Clive Barker script, and I was like, yeah, this is, and again, it was like, when I called up to discuss it with some people, the executives, I was like, so this is, they didn't want to discuss it. They were just like, yeah. And I was like, really? Yeah. Forget it. And what was exciting for me about you going into this was, and what I wanted to say was, again, for benefiting me was, had I done a scene in Judgment where someone pressed a square on Paul T. Taylor's head, it would have popped up to reveal a flowing black essence within his head that somebody drained out. People would have been yelling for my blood.
Yeah, no, I
would have been
honestly, I agree with you.
Critically burned to a crisp. Yeah, and then my wondering is that had Clive done it in his Hellraiser, that everyone would have gone, Clive Barker, what a genius, huh?
Yeah,
sometimes it's very difficult to hear this stuff and to see people's ideas again, and whether it's John Carpenter or Clive Barker or Wes Craven or whoever, sometimes they do things, and I've sat in these rooms and I've listened to people talk about doing things, and I've gone, is this the case of the Emperor's New Clothes? Like everyone's going to go along with it because you did it, you know what I mean? And it's like, and if this is somebody else who hasn't done the 3 films that you did before, that clearly means you are a genius. But now you're at a point where anything that you serve people is
the kind of yes man syndrome. Everyone's just
I've just shat this out, so it's genius.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Clive's. I mean, just to let everybody know about my relationship with Clive. There was a time when I used to hang out, at Clive's house in LA, and when we were working on Lord of Illusions and Bloodline and stuff, and I felt like I was part of the group there. And over the years, just more distance came, and it was very exciting for me when we were doing Judgment, because somebody from Clive's team reached out to me to say, hey, Clive's excited and that you're doing it and all this kind of stuff, but there's no feedback, and obviously people are aware that Clive's been suffering through some illness over the years.
I mean, it's tragic, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, I've always been chomping at the bit, and I love Clive's work. I mean, I do. I read everything he does, and the last thing I read that I really was excited about was Mr. Begone. I love Mr. Begone, and
well, he's supposed to be executive producing on a Nightbreed TV series. I don't know if you heard about that. Oh, you've heard, have you?
I will. I'll lay a bet with you right now that there will never be a Nightbreed TV series.
Okay, all right.
If there is, then I'll give whoever they want it. I'll give money to them.
Yeah. I mean, it has been announced. It has. Been, and it wasn't announced by Clive. It was announced by other people.
No, I know.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm good. I'll take.
No, I know.
Watch
I
your
would
space.
say this.
I'm intrigued.
First of all, how many times have we all heard of stuff that's been announced?
Yeah, Well, there was supposed to be a Tortured Soul bloody movie, and that never happened. That would have been great, but.
There are so many. Would it have been a great movie? I don't think it would have been a good movie at all.
I would have liked to have seen it. Whether it would have been good or not is, I guess.
But you just go as a writer or wherever you go. What am I going to do with this? How are we going to get to this? What's it going to be for 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Of these
as a writer, that's your catchphrase now. We'll your catchphrase.
I know the writer. I know the writer of that script. I could probably get it for you. Hans Rodian wrote it. And he was like, yeah, it was really difficult because it was like, what do I do? It's like, it's like, is Jurassic Park, is it the dinosaurs that make the film exciting, or is it the stuff around it? And you've got to stitch it together with something. Yeah. You can't just have 90 minutes of dinosaurs. So you can't have 90 minutes of, of just the Tortured Souls. You've got to stitch it together with something. And that's what makes it interesting. This is why Hellraiser is so good.
Yeah.
I've said it once. I've said it twice. I've said it a million times. You know, Hellraiser is good because it's the love triangle between Frank and Julia,
Yeah.
and you know, and that's the creepy, cool stuff.
Yeah.
That makes it really interesting. And then you've
The
got this
Cenobites just accentuate it. They just pop in.
they're this wonderful icing on the cake. You know,
Yeah.
this little. That again, you know, watching reviews of Judgment, where people go, Pinhead's
Barely in it.
man. He's barely in
Yeah.
it. The Cenobites are barely in it, and you go, they were barely in Hellraiser.
I think they were on screen for about 2 odd minutes in the original. 6 minutes. There you go.
Time Pinhead has.
Barely anything.
Which is
Crazy.
good. You don't want it, you know.
No,
That's
of course
the whole
not.
point. You know, you need it to be it's a little treat, you know. It's like I said, if you imagine
just pepper it in there for you to enjoy.
Well, as I've always said, if you imagine the Cenobites are the frosting on the cake.
Yep.
Yeah. The Cenobites are the frosting on the cake.
Yeah.
The cake is a really sumptuous, delicious cupcake.
Yeah.
And
Too much frosting, you'll get sick. Yeah. I completely agree. You're preaching to the choir there.
You know what? The best part of this is the frosting. Let's make a whole cake of frosting.
You can't. You absolutely can't. You can't. So that comes to another thing actually. Is with respect to this script is that the Cenobites in the original movie are amoral. They don't care about what they are there to serve a purpose. They're like workers. It's like they're employed and they're impartial. They're not evil. They're not good. They just go, I'm here to serve a purpose and I will do it. Pinhead and the other Cenobites in this new script are really quite evil. You know, Pinhead walks through a whole maternity ward, murders a whole bunch of babies, just kills them. And this is what I mean about the bizarre overpowered. He just walks with his hands out and like
sucking their souls out.
Yeah,
right?
Their souls come out like mist, and then he injects it into corpses, and it's like, okay, well, you're just an evil prick then, aren't you? Like, there's nothing overly interesting about that. I don't look at that.
It feels like something we've seen from another movies, right? It feels like something we've seen.
I mean,
you know, soul sucking, you know, like sorcerer movies and stuff. You know what I mean?
It's been done to death, but it's so out of character, I guess, for the character of Pinhead that if you're doing a remake of it, like I say, they're just way too evil in this remake script. You know, Pinhead is just evil, like it, and there's nothing too intriguing about that. I don't look at that and go, oh well, that's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting change, but as a movie, you look at it and you go, it might be an interesting change, but it's not an interesting characterization. Someone's just mad, maniacal, evil monster. It's like, well, okay, great, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very you know, I always remember that great moment to me that was in Hellbound that gave so much pathos to the characters was when Kirsty says, "You're all human once. Remember who you were." And there's that great moment where they're all kind of like going, "Oh yeah, you know, I was." And then Pinhead says, "I remember." You know, it's like, that was powerful. That was great.
That and paired with the fact that when the girl summons the Cenobites, he comes out and goes, "No," and everyone's like, "No," and he goes, "No. It's not hands that summon us, but it is desire." And it's that which just goes, okay, great. I know what these guys are about now. Yeah. You know, like they're not going to hurt you if you're dead innocent and you've got absolutely no desire for it remotely. You know, I don't know. Just you have
to give some props there and some kudos to Peter Atkins. He was a very underrated writer, you know, and you know. I know that a lot of it's Clive's story in Hellbound, but Peter is the guy who came up with some of the best lines of Pinhead ever. You know, like no tears, please. You know, it's a waste of good stuff. You know, like, well, that's it from the first one, but you're suffering with legendary even in hell. Yeah. You know, which is a classic Pinhead line. And Peter wrote some great stuff. Even and put some good words into Pinhead's mouth and gave it illustrated. But again, I think I felt that. I remember feeling that the Clive script lacked humanity. It lacked the humanity of it, and that's what I'm missing. Again, this is why I think.
But even the human characters, they've got no humanity either, and that's what it goes back to the Frank Cotton character. He's just a weird, incestuous, creepy. I mean, he even says at one point he's going to wear your as a necktie. Like what? I mean, I can't say the word because this. You know, the video's probably be demonetized anyway. Yeah, he's gonna wear your "See You Next Tuesday" as a necktie to Kirsty. It's like, what? Why?
it's too again
It's,
maybe
it's way too much. Way
I
too
don't know
much.
what Clive was going on in Clive's life at the time when he wrote it.
Mm.
I know it was written pretty fast. I remember that.
Well,
But
it's under 200 pages, so
yeah,
absolutely it's been written fast.
well, Clive writes fast anyway. Clive's
Yeah.
amazing. Just a strange piece of interest about Clive is that he writes every day. He used to write, I think it was 3,500 words a day.
Oh
Whether,
well.
whether that took him 2 hours or 10 hours,
Mm.
is the most. If you spend any time with Clive Barker, the one thing that you would always feel I did anyway was that I should go home and be doing more. You
Okay.
know, like you always felt like, wow,
Just a
wow,
dedicated person.
just gets up and works, and no
Yeah.
matter what, and somebody who's got money and a big swimming pool and a nice house, he was never like, you got there and he was like sitting around the pool. If you went for dinner, you were kind of like, you would be sitting there talking to other people, and Clive would bustle in, have dinner with you, and then be like, well, great to see you, bye, and would run out. And he was just always, he's just always working, painting or drawing or writing or having
Mm.
a meeting, and it was like, you always felt like, God, I gotta go home and do more stuff, like I'm not doing enough. And it
Yeah.
was inspiring in many ways. And he writes in pencil as well. He doesn't type it. It's all written out by hand.
I mean that is interesting. Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like I say, just phenomenally kind of creative, like output. And even when you
Mm.
would have talks about anything, he'd be just like spitballing ideas out to you all the time.
Yeah.
So I think fundamentally what you're getting and what I got, and again, it's been a while since I've read it, and I
Mm.
should reread it. Was I was just like, again, like, is this the work of the guy that I love and love his works?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I read maybe like I can't remember what the name of it is, the Mulholland script, the screenplay book. That I was like, really, like this is horror auteur Clive Barker, and it seems kind
Yeah.
of this weird kind of like semi-homosexual drama about life, and I was like, it's not what I wanted. That's why when Mr. Be Gone came out, I was like, this feels like we're going back to Clive's world now, like into
Yeah. Yeah.
strange
I
demon script.
I completely agree. So I guess to kind of round out this this podcast video, whatever you want to call it, this chit chat. What about the future of Hellraiser? Have you been contacted? Do you know where the rights lie at the moment? Do you know who
I
has
believe
the
that
rights?
I think the right light's right with Miramax.
That's what that is. I'm glad you said that. It's exactly what I was thinking, because there were some comments made, which looked to be based off of Halloween. Basically, it was an executive at Miramax, and it is like I did a video on it. Stated that they're looking to potentially even reboot it, like along with Hellraiser and Scream.
I think Scream right now is
Yeah.
the primary concern. I believe Jason Blum's very interested in Scream.
Yeah.
I mean, look, coming off the back of the enormous success of Halloween, you have to imagine that
They're going to look at their back catalogue.
yeah. And I know that Blum was very interested in Scream and reinventing that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Hellraiser is being developed right now, or at least being poked around.
But you haven't heard anything?
I've heard not. Look, I mean, to be 100% honest with you, I don't expect a phone call. I don't expect anything at all. I'm sure they'll want to rid themselves of the past and anyone associated with it. If I was an executive over at Miramax, based on the deal that occurred with Halloween, surely you'd go, oh, well, look, clearly the right thing to do now is to get Clive Barker involved.
Yeah.
Hire a couple of young writers who are doing really, really well and have done something who, again, you find, the guys who've done Legend of Hill House and say, hey, we'd like to bring you in to get your pitch on Hellraiser. You get a couple of young new writers, and a hot new director, and spend $15 million or $20 million making a new Hellraiser. And would I cast Doug? Could Doug play Pinhead? I don't know. I mean, if it depends if the design stayed the same, and
Careful, you're going to get a whole bunch of hate now. All right, careful.
well, no, I mean, look, I'm purely talking
Not from me.
Performance
Not from me.
wise,
Just from
no, I
comments.
will defend it. Performance wise, I know Doug can
Of
play
course he can,
absolutely in
yeah.
sleep. Physically, his face is. When I was doing his makeup 10 years ago, he's quite jowly and quite heavy, and it's hard to make it. But you can do it. We used to do lifts on him, and he looks really good. He looks healthy and fit. So I wouldn't. If it was me, if someone came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we've just hired the writers of Hill House, and we've got the rights, and we want to spend $50 million, and we'd love you to direct it, Gary Tunnicliffe, I'd go and call Doug Bradley. Let's do a makeup test and see if he. Well, first of all, see if he wants to do it, and see if let's do a makeup test and see if it works.
Yeah.
And then if it didn't work and Doug didn't like it, then I'd be like, well, again, it really depends on what the character was like in the script. If it was a direct remaking of the original Hellraiser, or where do you go, or do you or do you do the Halloween thing and say, well, look, why don't we do Hellraiser and it's a direct follow up from the story of Hellraiser,
Yeah. No,
the Hellraiser, and it's not the story of Kirsty Cotton. It's the story of where the box went to next, or the detectives coming in, or people coming into the clean up on the house of what happened at the Cotton house or whatever. Investigating the Cotton disappearances or whatever. You know what I mean? And discovering that. I'm sure that either way, I'm sure there's a very. I wouldn't be surprised. It would be bizarre to me to not think of anything happening. But again, like I discussed with you before, it wouldn't surprise me if there are executives who, if you offered them the choice of doing Scream or doing Hellraiser, they don't go straight for Scream because it's an easier box to get into.
Yeah, it's an easier sell. It is an easier sell.
It's not too much a question of a sell even. It's just like it's easier to do because again, just like Dimension before would go. Yeah, this is tricky, guys. Like it's sadomasochistic demons from hell, and how erotic is it, and how sexual is it, and how risky do we go, and or do we do a bunch of teens being killed off by a guy in a mask?
Yeah, it's easier. A lot.
It is right. It's very easy, and
from a business perspective, I can see it definitely. I can see it.
Does it interest me? Would I like to go and see a Scream? Absolutely not. I'd look, we're preaching to the choir. You love Hellraiser. I love Hellraiser. The people who love Hellraiser love it for certain reasons, and it's because it's creepy and odd and weird. I truly wish that somebody would just give a avant-garde director amount of money to do it right with a good cast.
Yep.
And say, look, we trust you. Go ahead and make it. Again, even someone like Garland saying, "Hey, do you want to do a Hellraiser movie?"
Potential there. Potential.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see someone like that take it?
From a visual perspective, absolutely. I mean, even the likes of
think of the dynamics of what's going on in that film in Ex Machina. Where you've got those three characters and this weird pivotal, three characters. Yeah. It's a love triangle movie basically, which is what Hellraiser is.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Right.
And that's what it has to be. It has to be made with the intellect of someone writing a great drama that's then put through the horror, frosting machine.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess it's kind of a watch this space situation. Just see. What
think of what would be the release. The press release that would make you go, okay, now I'm excited. Like if I suddenly said to you, hey, check out the press release, and it was like, David Fincher directs Hellraiser.
I don't know. I mean, I've been saying for a while, I'd want someone odd, to direct it. Someone who you wouldn't quite think of. Someone for me. For
example.
Like a hard R Del Toro could be good. I think personally, a hard R Del Toro could be good. Even like a Neil Blomkamp has good visuals. He's not his stories can sometimes lack, but from a visual perspective, it's fantastic. So you have to kind of marry up all of those things to kind of.
I'm asking watchers of this podcast right now to put down in the comment section who would your ideal choice and who do you think would make a good Hellraiser remake.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, drop them down below.
I'd love to see what people would put down as their suggestion of interesting directors. Again, I think as a studio, because look, who would have ever put down Danny McBride?
Yeah, well, no.
And that combination for Halloween, and look at the success it did.
Yeah.
Because here's again the thing you've got to look at, right? And go, do you like Halloween? But if you were an investor in it, how happy would you be?
Yeah.
And don't forget, it's a business.
Oh yeah, always. I'm forever telling people.
Don't be surprised if we see very odd pairings for Scream. Like it's being written by blah, 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 blah. And you go, what? Zach Galifianakis is writing Scream? Really? Like, what's going on? Because
you just look at the money-making formula. That's what you do.
Because, Hollywood is going to try and, recreate the magic. Well, it worked there. So clearly we should put comedy writers and mainstream directors in a room to make horror films now and not do it this way. It's like the cachet right now of having brothers doing, directing movies.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
yeah, exactly.
duo teams of directing movies.
Yeah, Jew yeah, I can, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What we'll do now, because I keep looking down and my dog's getting a little bit restless,
Oh,
and he's a puppy. He's not even, well,
no,
he's a couple months old, and there's been a few bits of messes here and there, so I will have to take him out now. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to end this podcast. But it's a good time to end, because a good note to end is quite literally, guys, leave your suggestions, as Gary said, down below in the comment section for who you would want to direct Hellraiser, and also what direction you would want it to go in. So who would you want to direct, and what direction they push the Hellraiser franchise into. I hope you've enjoyed this special little kind of podcast series. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, but also leave it down below, because, like we've said in some of these videos before now, is that me and Gary do talk, and this is something which we can organize again. So if there's a little bit of buzz for it, then again, it's always a good encouragement to organize it sooner rather than later. I'm sure you would agree. Yes.
Gary? Oh, me? Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I'm talking to you.
Oh, look, well, we're going to talk anyway. So I mean, if
exactly.
people want to listen in and be a fly on the wall, then why not? So I mean,
exactly.
I've always got verbal diarrhea. So, I'm sure there are people who are like, "Oh, shut up, Tunnicliffe. No one gives a damn what you're saying." But I mean, I just think it's I get a lot of people who tell me, yeah, we put your stuff on in the background sometimes when we're working. It's always fairly entertaining. But look, I've never been short of an opinion, and clearly nearly of you. No. And horror is always, like I say, it's a fascinating subject, and some of it's going to resonate, and some of it's going to polarize, and it's like, that's the joy of horror films, and it's always a fun discussion. But
well, thank you.
I want you to go and see A Star Is Born now.
Yeah, well, no, I'm gonna have to. But no, thank you for joining me. And
you're welcome, and thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it, folks. But I think it'd be great to hear what their suggestions. I think Alex Garland would be an interesting choice for a Hellraiser. I really do. Or just to see like I said, based on, if you think Ex Machina with Cenobites and hooks and chains, then that would be interesting, right? Because you've got a triangle there. That to me is what's important if you're going to make a film like that, is have that very strong character element, like who would direct a great, like Mamet, you know what I mean? Like Mamet, who Mamet would be an interesting take on it. To have the guy who did Silver Linings Playbook make Hellraiser.
Yeah, no, again, completely agree. I think the odder choices would be the best. But leave them all down below. Thank you so much for joining me, Gary. I need to now take my dog out for a
Take care of that
for a walk. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Peace.